Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Doll Mom Podcast. My name's Mal. If you're new here, it's Mal again. If you're a returning listener, and Merry Christmas, everyone! It's our Christmas episode. When I'm posting this, it's December 25th. So, Merry Christmas. If you're listening to this on Christmas, I hope you are having a fantastic day. If you're not listening to this on Christmas, which I totally understand, because Christmas is a day to spend with your family. It's not a day to spend listening to the Doll Mom Podcast unless you want it to be a day listening to the Doll Mom Podcast, which I wouldn't be opposed to. Think that's great. Then I don't even know what I was talking about. I lost my train of thought. But anyways, I hope you're having an amazing day. I hope you had an amazing Christmas. If you celebrate Christmas, if you celebrate Hanukkah, I hope you have a great Hanukkah, had a good Hanukkah. If you celebrate something else, I hope you had a good holiday. And if you don't celebrate anything, then I just hope that you're having a good day and a good life and a good year in general. It's just me today on the podcast, if you haven't noticed. I apologize for any disappointment this may cause, that it's just me. I don't have a guest on today. That is because I didn't really want to bother anyone, because December is such a busy time of the year. It's like the busiest time of the year, and I just didn't want to bother anyone asking them to come on the podcast. So it's just me today, but it's still going to be a great episode. Hopefully you enjoy it. I didn't really have a plan for this episode to start out with, because I was like, I don't know what to talk about. We're not having a guest on. It's the end of the year. It's our last episode of 2022, which is crazy because 2023 is literally just in a couple days, which is just insane that we're even talking about 2023. I kind of don't want 2023 to come. I kind of just want to stay living in 2022 because this year was great. It was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. And me being the Taylor Swift fan I am, me being a Swiftie, my catchphrase this year was, I'm feeling 2022. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling 22. Ooh, ooh. Okay. Anyways, so I'm really sad that I don't get to say that anymore. Because that doesn't sound cool if I put 23 in it, because the song's called 22. It's not called 23. You know what I mean? But anyways, it's fine. I'm excited for 2023 though. It's going to be great. It's going to be a good year, hopefully. I don't know. I haven't started the year yet, so who knows. But anyways, going back to what we're going to talk about today in today's episode, we're going to be looking back on 2022 and kind of reflecting about it, talking about it, all the fun things, amazing things that happened on the Doll Mom podcast. And then we're also going to be talking about some of my hopes and wishes and dreams and different things that I hope happens in 2023. And yeah, so it's kind of like a look back, reflective episode. We haven't really done that, I feel like, on the Doll Mom podcast. So I was like, let's give it a go. So yeah, hopefully you enjoy it. And I feel like without further ado, let's get into it. Let's get started. So 2022 was an epic year. I don't know about you, but I'm really feeling 2022. We're going to be talking about 2022. So we had a lot of stuff happen with the podcast this past year, which I'm very excited, and I'm the crying emoji, but happy tears, the little anyways. First of all, I think we should talk about how my podcast returned from whatever break I was doing, whatever happened to that. I returned on January 25th with my first episode having a guest on. The fourth episode I posted had my best friend in the whole world, Mia, from Mia My AG, on Instagram and YouTube. She was my first guest I had on, and it was super fun to have her on. Oh my goodness. Recording that podcast with her was actually a big shift in our friendship. And I think it's kind of funny because that was the first time we ever FaceTime. I was like, hey, I have an idea. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but I have a podcast and I'd really love to have you on as the return episode. And I was like, it's okay if you say no, because I wasn't sure she was going to do it, because I was kind of scared to, like, ask her. You know, it's always kind of scary to ask someone to be on the podcast, because you're like, I don't want to, like, push them into doing it. Don't want to pressure them into doing it. But at the same time, like, I really want them to come on. You know what I mean? And, like, you know, anyways. So, but she said yes, obviously. And that episode was just, it was so much fun. Like, I was so excited for that. I was so excited for it to be, like, my first episode with a guest. And it actually, if we're going to be real, it actually wasn't my first episode. Originally, I had the 4th episode being in May of 2021 with dolls_on-the-go, Rachel. That was not, it wasn't it. Everything that could go wrong went wrong. And not the episode. The episode that we recorded was great, but you cannot hear it. Like, the microphone was out. Like, everything. Like I said, everything that went wrong, it went wrong. Like, we ended up, I think, recording that episode like 3 times that day, or maybe 4 times. The last take that we did, the last, like, recording, I was like, okay, we got it. We did not. It didn't record anything. Like, you can't hear anything at all. It was, like, super sad. I was so embarrassed to, like, message her that and be like, yeah, we got nothing. But it's okay, like, because I ended up getting her back on the podcast for technically our September episode, but I posted it in October, and we, like, recorded it, I think, on, like, October 1st or something, and that episode is perfection. Like, I was so proud of that, because it was a train wreck. The first time that we got together and we tried to make episode 4 of the Dumb Mom podcast, it didn't work. I applaud her for being on. We tried Zoom. I think we ended up doing something over Instagram, FaceTime, and I applaud her for, like, being so flexible and being so patient with me and, like, staying on for hours, because, like I said, it was a long time that we sat here and we tried to get it, and she did it over and over again. It was the same questions over and over again, and it was nothing on her of what made the episode go wrong. It was everything on me. Like, I was having so many technical difficulties. It wasn't my day. It wasn't my time. It wasn't my day. I always believe that there's a reason for, like, everything, even though I might not see the reason in that moment. I might not identify the reason till several days, months, or years afterwards. But I really think the reason of why everything went wrong was, obviously, it was an experience. I didn't know what I was doing, really, because, you know, I just started the podcast in, like, I don't even know what, February, and this was, like, episode 4, so, like, April or something, no, May or something, and so I was trying to figure out the podcast world, which is something I've never explored and pushed myself into until then, and because I was so kind of inexperienced, and this was, like, my first time diving into the podcast world, which was a world that I never got into before until then, I needed a time to grow and kind of better myself as a podcaster, a podcast creator, podcast host, whatever you want to call me in the podcast sense. I needed to grow, and I needed to be someone better than I was when I first had her on. I needed to be someone better when I had her on again, because she's so amazing, and her story and what she does is so, it's more than amazing. It's more than words. That I needed to capture that, and I needed to tell that perfectly for a podcast, and I don't think I was capable of doing that in May of 2021 for the 4th episode, and I think having all those technical difficulties and kind of being depressed and down in the dust and embarrassed to admit that like our podcast episode, we didn't get anything. No, we thought we got something, we didn't. Proves to me and was a sign to me I should not have her on as a fourth episode, and I needed her being the fourth episode shouldn't be a thing, even though I wish she was the fourth episode. When she did came back on, I was so excited to have her back on because I was like more confident within myself to be doing and hosting a podcast and to be, have a sense of comfortivity. Oh, is that even a word? Being confident that things are going to go well. And I think episode 11 is great. I was so proud of that thing. When I got it all edited, and when it came out, I played it over and over again. I really think her episode 11 turned out great. It was a completely different episode than what we originally were doing back when the fourth episode, May 2021, was a thing. I do think sometimes we all need a chance to grow and understand that if something, what we want to happen, isn't happening is a sign that maybe we should grow and maybe not necessarily stop what we're doing, but take a break for a long time, but stop what we're doing, accept it, have time to absorb it, and come to an understanding that I maybe have to grow before I have to do this, or maybe the timing's off and I need to be I need to be a better version of myself before I do this, or before I communicate to them, or before I do something. I feel like we all need and understand that we need a chance to grow before we do something. And that isn't bad. Growing isn't bad, and becoming a better version of yourself isn't bad. It just means that, it's not right for you in that moment, and you just have to accept that, and you have to, whatever it happens to you again, you're going to be ready for it, and you're going to be capable of doing it, and it's going to be better than it would have been if it worked out perfectly. So, yeah, it was nothing like her fault or anything why it didn't work out. It was completely all on me. I will say that because episode 4 with her didn't work out the first time back in May of 2021, it was devastating to me. I really wanted her to be my first guest because I thought it would be perfect. Her storyline, the whole episode was great. It was just really disappointing to me that we didn't get anything, and it just wasn't working out. So because of that, was kind of down in the dust for a little bit, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna skip May. And if I'm up to doing the podcast over the summer, then I'm up to doing the podcast over the summer. I'm not going to pressure myself, because I was in a bad mental state kind of in those little months, but discouraged me from kind of continuing on the podcast. So that's why I kind of stopped in 2021. And then January came along. I met up with Mia for Girl of the Year of 2022, Corinne's release. It was just such a great day. And I was like, I want to talk about this. And I feel like this would be really cool if we talked about this on the podcast. So I was like, okay, I'm going to have Mia on. We're going to have a blank slate. I kind of had an idea of how I was going to have guests on. And if we're going to be real, I'm still kind of figuring out how to have guests on and make the podcast good. And stuff like that. And I think everyone does. I think everyone's just, no matter what you do, you're always trying to figure out how to better yourself, how to curate and make it better, and get with the trends and make your own trends. And you're always looking for something to do and to make it better. And that's what I guess we'll get into this more when I talk about my hopes and goals for 2023, but that's kind of what I want to kind of focus more on in 2023. Anyways, that episode that we did, me and Mia, the 4th episode, it was great. I enjoyed it. I loved it. It was actually our biggest episode on Spotify, so thank you so much for listening to that episode and for loving it and for supporting my comeback on the Doll Mom podcast. I always enjoyed podcasting, and that's something I should have said earlier, because I didn't want to make it seem like I hated it when I started it. No, I wanted to start a podcast in the summer of 2020, but I didn't do it, obviously, because I kind of wanted to figure it out, and I was like, yeah, that's a long story, but always loved podcasting, and I still love it. I love my podcast, and I love doing it, and I hope you guys enjoy it just as much as I do like listening to it. I hope you guys enjoy it as much as I love to. Anyways, you get the point. Doll Mom Podcast. We got put on some amazing platforms this past year. We got put on Amazon Music. I got put on, let's see, I got put on another platform too called, Stitcher. I got put on there. And also, guys, I did request, it was like in the summer in June to be put on Pandora. I have not heard anything from Pandora about that. Maybe in 2023 we will get put on Pandora. I don't know. I submitted the application. That was such a long application part. Oh my goodness. And like Pandora, for those of you who don't have a podcast and don't know how that works, Pandora, I think Apple Podcasts did this too, but like you had to like fill out a whole application, and it was like your numbers and like statistics and like some of the things I didn't even know what to put down. So I was just like, okay, we're going to put this number down and hope it's right. But anyways, and then you have to submit it. And then I guess they have like a panel of people and they like review your podcast. My podcast has been in review since June. Okay, so like I don't know if like this is bad or like, maybe they're just really enjoying it, the panel, and they're like, she's really funny, we should keep listening to her and just like not give me anything. I don't know. But anyways, Pandora, let's hope for this 2023. I always kind of want to get on new platforms for you guys because I know everyone has different platforms, like they prefer different platforms. Like for me, if I'm on my phone, I prefer Apple because that's where all my music is, but on my computer I prefer Spotify, and sometimes on my computer, on my laptop, I prefer to just listen things off of YouTube. Like I'm just kind of all over the place if we're going to be real. But yeah, I always like to try to get on different platforms because I know everyone has they like different things and they prefer different things. Alrighty, another big thing that we did in 2022 was my Instagram account, which is what I use to promote my podcast, Doll Mom Podcast. I also use the TikTok, but I'm not really active on that. So I mean, I'm not active on like the Doll Mom Podcast part of it. I'm active on my main TikTok account because I like it and I think it's fun, but like I'm not active on the podcast account on TikTok, which I should be more. I'm gonna be real, but it's fine. We got 100 followers on Instagram, which is such a big accomplishment. Literally I'm gonna be honest, I think I did cry about it because it's just, I never expected so much support about my podcast, and this was something I always wanted to do, and I'm getting emotional right now. Oh my goodness, tears are coming up from my eyes because I just love doing it, and I'm so glad that like people love to listen to it and they enjoy it. We also had Monica come on from @AmCamGirl. She is so sweet. I love Monica so much. Oh my goodness, she's one of my favorite people on Instagram. She's so funny. I love her so much. Her episode turned out perfect. Absolutely love that episode. We also had my mom come on. That was actually like my first podcast filming it in the same room, like in person, because Mia and Monica, we did it over FaceTime, so I'm sure it probably sounds like we did it over FaceTime. I actually haven't listened to those podcasts in a while. I should do that, right? Anyways, but yeah, that was kind of daunting, like having your guest on in the same room, but it was honestly really fun. I liked it. This is when, a dream of mine is to kind of like, how like big podcast people have like a set and like they have like a video podcast, like you can watch it on YouTube and it's like a video and like they have their guests come on in person. I'd love to do that. If I was really rich and famous, girl, I'd be flying out my guests. Like that'd be like to like my cute little studio. Like that'd be so cute. Like that'd be so cool. Anyways, we also had Mia come on again for the 9th episode. For the 10th episode, we have Aang on. I enjoyed that episode so much. I loved it. She was so much fun to talk to, and like she DM'd me. I can't remember when it was, but she was like, "Oh yeah, I really want to come on the Doll Mom podcast." And I was like, I would love it if you came on the Doll Mom podcast too. And I was like, okay, well, like, give me like a little bit to figure out what we talk about. Because sometimes when people ask me to come on the Doll Mom podcast, I'm like, yeah. Most of the time I'm like, yes. I'm like, absolutely. I don't think there's a guest that I said no to. But anyways, I'm like, okay, let me figure out what we're going to talk about, because every episode's different. Like, I want every episode to be unique and fun and like exciting. And I can't remember when she asked me to come on, but it took me a while to figure out what we're going to talk about. And I was like, okay, this is what we're going to talk about. And like, she was so excited. I was so excited. Like, it was great. So next we had Rachel on from @dolls_on_the_go. Well, @dolls_on_the_go, to be more specific about her username. Yeah, I really enjoyed this one more, having her back on. I loved it. I was more carefree, I felt like, and more like less stress, and like I really enjoyed it more having her back on, and like I just loved it. Such a good episode. I loved it. I loved all my guests this year, and next year we're gonna have so many guests. It's gonna be great. I'm so excited for all the guests that we're gonna have next year. I actually planned it. I planned all the episodes, I think, until like June. It's crazy. And then for our 12th episode, we had my friend Cassie, who, she's super duper sweet. She's from AG Kristen09. Loved her so much. Oh my goodness. That was a great episode. I will say though, our microphone did cut out. This was when I realized that I'm having microphone issues and like recording issues, was her episode, and it made me very scared for my Etsy shops episode, the episode 13, because I was like, oh my goodness, if this happens during that, I will cry, because episode 13, which we'll talk about here in a few minutes, that episode meant so much to me. Like, all of my episodes mean the world to me. And yeah, I was really bummed because we talked about how we met, and like it was such a cute story. It was like when she was talking, we both told the story when it was happening. In my mind, I was like, this is such a good part to put in an Instagram wheel on Instagram to promote our podcast. The promoter in me, oh my goodness. Anyways, and I'm like, oh, this is gold. Like, this part of the episode just meant so much to me, and microphone didn't get any of it. And I'm like, okay, it's okay. We're going to have her back on, which we will. Don't worry. And then we had episode 13. That episode meant so much to me. I was sitting on that idea since December of 2021, or I think it was even before then, actually. So if you haven't listened to episode 13, I definitely recommend it, because all the episodes are my favorites, but it's definitely, I had to narrow it down, it's definitely on the list of my favorites, because it means so much to me. It means so much to me that I got to highlight 3 amazing shops and creators who deserve to be highlighted and deserves all the recognition in the world for all their great and hard work. But it meant the world to me that I had so much support for this episode, and like a lot of people loved it, because it was an idea that I was really passionate about, because I think all of the Etsy shops, and like even if you're not on Etsy, you have your own website, like all of the hand makers, that's a bad word to say about them. Well, it's not a bad word, but like, you know, like all the small shops and businesses who are doll related, I don't feel like they get as much recognition as they should, because they work so hard on their products, running their social media accounts and keeping their website up to date, and running with customers and like getting their orders out. I feel like they do so much hard work, and it goes unrecognized and unappreciated. So I kind of wanted to kind of give back to them in a way. Yeah, that's what I did. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. It was such a great year. I want to thank all of my guests that I had, all the small shops that came on to episode 13. Cypher's Cripson, Camelot's Treasures, Heather's Corner. Like, thank you so much for coming on and for making that episode as perfect as it is. Okay, so besides having a big and epic year full of podcast episodes and having on different amazing guests to the Doll Mom podcast, the Doll Mom podcast had a big year of milestones and accomplishments and achievements, which I'm forever fangirling over, completely thankful and grateful, and like crying moments, you know, happy tears, crying, like happy crying moments. So I think, first of all, you know, I kind of talked about, or we're going to talk about how the Doll Mom podcast returned with episode 4, because I don't know if you noticed, but we did kind of take, I don't know, what do you want to call it, like a little break or something. And then the Doll Mom podcast got put on different platforms this year. And then, like I said, we got put on 2 platforms this year, pleading the third one. We're waiting for Pandora to come back with an answer. We got 100 followers. We joined TikTok. But I think our biggest achievements kind of happened at the end of 2022. The Doll Mom podcast, I'm probably going to cry during this. I hope not. But, you know, my podcast means such the world to me. Oh, my goodness. Okay. The Doll Mom podcast we were number 1 in the category Kids and Family in Papua New Guinea, which is a country kind of by Australia and New Zealand. And then we were also number 92 in the category of all podcasts in the same country. First of all, we were those positions on Apple Podcast. I want to thank everyone in Papua New Guinea who listens to the podcast, who supports the podcast, who's followed the podcast on any social media sites, who's liked any of the posts, commented on any of the posts from that country. And yeah, I just want to thank the people of Papua New Guinea for supporting me and stuff like that. When I got that information, I was like, oh my gosh, because I think of the podcast as like my child. It's like my baby. I feel like with whatever I do, it's kind of like my children. It's my child besides the dolls. I think of my podcast as like this little thing inside this little box, and like it's like not really, I mean, I guess it is a thing, but like it's not really a thing. And like when I hit 10 episodes, I was kind of like, oh my God, it's not small anymore. We're over 10. Like when I hit, like, I don't know, like I just think of this podcast as like something really small, and like I said, it's like a little baby. It's like a little month-old, you know, baby. And it's not really that. It's not really a baby. It's not really a month-old baby, because we're number 1 in a country, and we're number 92 in a country in the same country. And it's insane. And then I also want to thank everyone who's listened to the Doll Mom podcast on Spotify. When I got my Spotify Unwrapped or Wrapped, or what I think it's called. Is it called Unwrapped or Wrapped? I think it's called Wrapped. Spotify Wrapped. I can't remember the exact name. I'm so bad with names. If we're gonna be real, I'm so bad. I didn't even know that they did that for podcasts. I thought that was really cool. I was like, oh, look at this, because I was like logging into my podcast dashboard on my podcast host distributor website, and they're like, oh, check out your Spotify 2022 Wraps. And I was like, okay, I'll do it, you know. And going through it, I was actually on the phone with Mia. We were on the phone talking, and I was clicking through it, and I was like, oh, I think I was like silent for like a solid, it was like 10 or 15 minutes. And she's like, what's happening? Like, what are you doing? You're never this quiet. Like, what is going on? I was like, Mia, let me just read you all this. And I was just like, oh my gosh. Like, I was like crying, you know. It was great. I was like, oh my gosh. Like, the Doll Mom podcast was top 10 podcasts for 48 fans, top 5 podcasts for 39 fans, and the number 1 podcast for 14 fans. I'm in the top 30% of most followed podcast on Spotify. Our top episode was Doll Pairing with Mia, my AG. That was the January episode. They also gave me my listener's personality, which is the Devolte. Once again, I'm really bad with pronouncing things. If you listen to the podcast, you probably know that, or if you watch one of my videos. But anyways, it means when your fans love a podcast, they really love it. They're quick to support new releases and play their favorite episodes over and over. And my top 3 countries for United States, Canada, United Kingdom, And yeah, I just want to thank everyone on Spotify for all of those amazing achievements, for listening to the podcast, supporting it, following along. It means like I'm literally crying right now. Like I have tears in my eyes because, yeah, like I said, it just means so much to me of your support, and I'm so bad with words. I just really appreciate you listening to this. When I first launched my podcast, I never thought of reaching anything, like any statistics, analytics, any big milestones. Like it never even occurred to me that this podcast could do that. I just started it because I thought it was cool, and I just was like, oh, this is so cool. Like, I want to do it. Like, I just want to do it. And that's what I did. Like, I just thought it was a cool thing, and I just wanted to hump on the cool trend of having a podcast. I feel like now every day, like, everyone has a podcast, and this is mine. But yeah, I just thought it was really neat, and I just wanted to do it, and that's what I did. I want to thank everyone, no matter what platform you're listening on right now, what platform's your favorite to listen to it, no matter what country you're in. I want to thank everyone for listening to my podcast and supporting it over the year, and supporting it ever since it came out in January of 2021. No, it wasn't January, it was February. Oh my gosh, I'm so... Oh, that's bad. I don't know that. Anyways, did I talk about... I didn't mention this. I've been sick the past 2 weeks. That's kind of why I didn't record the podcast until now, because I've been sick, and I'm still kind of am sick. I'm getting over 2 ear infections. I have an ear infection in both my ears, so I can't really hear myself. So editing this is gonna be fun, because one of my ears has been clogged up for like 2 weeks, and like I can't hear anything. All I hear is static in it. So, and then like I had like, it was either like a cold or like an upper respiratory infection or like an upper sinus infection. I don't know what I had, but it was like something of that. I do know I didn't have COVID and I didn't have the flu, because I did go to urgent care. I went to urgent care twice within these past 2 weeks. I feel like a regular there now. It's kind of bad. I'll probably go again next week because my ear's still bothering, and I'm taking my last dose of medicine today. So like, I'm kind of feeling like a regular there. I'm not gonna lie. So anyways, yeah, where was I? I'm so sorry. I'm so over the place. It's the sick mind, I'm telling you. But anyways, going back, I want to thank everyone for supporting my podcast, and like, yeah, because we did hit over 1,000 listens across all the platforms that it's out on. And yeah, it's crazy to me that people want to listen to me, I guess, talk, and want to hear my guests talk. And like, it honestly just means so much to me that you personally, if you're listening up to this point, or if you stopped listening or whatever, that you chose a couple minutes and seconds out of your day to listen to me talk and listening to my guests that I had on talk. I also want to thank Feedspot for ranking the Doll Mom podcast number 5 in the top 15 doll podcast on the internet. Feedspot is it's a website that ranks like different things. Here, let me read you. They have like this cute thing on like their thing on their website. Let me read you it, because it's so when I found out, I was like number 4. No, wait, not number 4. Well, we're actually number 4 right now, because they redid it for 2023. It was 15 best doll podcasts you must follow in 2023, and they put me as number 4. So yeah, I was number 5 in 2022. Now I'm number 4 in 2023. Yeah. Anyways, Feedspot is the internet's largest human culturated database of bloggers and podcasts. So it was such an honor to me that I even got ranked on this list. I was like, when I got that email saying that, oh yeah, you're saying, you know, I'm number 5 in the top 15. I was like, oh my gosh, it was another crying moment, fangirl moment, freak out moment. I never expected my podcast to go anywhere like this, and it blows my mind every time I get a new email about it. And I just really appreciate all the support and all the listens, and it just means so much to me because, like I said, I never expected anything like this. I just want to do this for fun, and yeah, here I am. 2022 was a year, like I said, it was a great year. Like, it was so amazing. This year was just so much fun. I'm just so grateful and thankful that I got to experience everything that I got to experience this year. I will have a year in review, which is something that I always do on my YouTube channel, and I always enjoy making it in January, talking about everything that I did this year and all of the amazing opportunities that came my way as well. And yeah, it was just a good year, and I'm excited for 2023, but at the same time, I'm just like, how could it get better than this? I don't know. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. I don't know. So here's to 2023 with happiness for all of us, new opportunities, new experiences, new things that we are obsessed with, new things that bring us joy and happiness, and for all of the great people that enter in our lives. Cheers. Clink. I needed 2 cups, and I don't have 2 cups to, like, cheer to me and you, listen to me and, like, to you listening. So now I'm going to talk about what I hope for in 2023 and some things that, like, kind of like my goals and some things I want to do. First of all, since this is a podcast, I'm going to kind of make it podcast related. So for 2023, I would really like to keep up with my podcast, to, continue it. And I would love to make it better in a way. For Christmas, I actually asked for a microphone. So what I'm filming this on is kind of like a headset, and it's kind of like a gamer thing. Like, I feel like a little gamer, or like a, hello, this is Mal. How may I help you? Like a little, like, telemarketer. Maybe not a little telemarketer, but, like, a little, like, calling center with my little headset with my microphone with it. But anyways, next year, I'm hoping I do get a microphone for Christmas, because I feel like that'd be really awesome, and, like, yeah, I would love a different microphone. Right now, I kind of mentioned early in the episode how I've been having some issues with recording, and, like, I don't know if it was my microphone or if it was this thing that I used to record my podcast on, but for this episode, I'm actually using a new software to record my podcast on, and it's like what someone would use, like a producer, to make music. Like, we have, like, all these different tracks, and we have, like, the beats and, like, the mix and, like, the just different musical things, and, like, I kind of feel like I'm, like, a singer, like, I'm gonna, like, record my debut album, or, like, my single with, like, this, like, editing thing. Like, it's kind of fancy. It's kind of for the singers, you know what I mean? And producers. I feel like I'm, like, making hits. I don't know. But anyways, so hopefully this goes good. And I kind of wanted something that I can see my audio waves as I talk, like, to make sure that, like, it's recording, and, like, I'm getting things, you know what I mean? Like, my microphone doesn't go out or something, you know what I mean? Something weird. Yeah, I would honestly just really like to better the podcast by getting a microphone. Maybe better myself by being more aware about how I podcast works. I have an option of making different seasons, maybe figuring out when I should actually stop season 1, because we're still in season 1 of the podcast. I thought about making a season, having seasons for 10 episodes, so, like, each, like, season 1, like, stopping season 1, and, like, with the 10th episode, which was back in August, and, like, completely rebranding the podcast, like, keeping the same name of Doll Mom Podcast, because honestly, that's me, that's iconic, I love it, but, like, different color schemes. Like, I decided against that because I really like the black and white theme. And I think it's really cool, and I feel really neat, doing it, and, like, I'm really proud of what it is, of my podcast, as it is, not as what it could be. I kind of want to stick to what I'm doing right now, and I do know, like, 2023, I hope it's going to bring more store experiences. I know that for sure. Unless my flights get all canceled. Can you imagine? Oh my gosh, I hope not. It's going to bring new videos, new Instagram posts, new TikToks, new Reels, new podcast episodes, new content to American Girl History, because I still do that. Yeah, and maybe I think it's going to bring a new project as well. I'm not going to go into too much details because I decided that 2023, this was something I kind of wanted to do for a long time. And I was like, you know what? My mom actually said this too. She's like, next year, why don't we try to focus on making this happen? I go, let's do it. Let's do it. And I will say it's something, I'll give you a little hint because, I can't keep my mouth shut about anything because I'm a blabbermouth and I get so excited about things and, like, you know what I mean? It's something that is very requested and hopefully we're going to make it happen. So yeah, I guess I'll leave you with that. Here's to 2023 again. Cheers. Alrighty, everyone. I think we officially reached the end of this podcast. I think I'm going to end it here. I thought about talking about what's on my Christmas list this year, but I kind of think this is a good little episode talking about and reflecting upon 2023, all of the stuff that the podcast accomplished, all of the amazing guests that we had on, and the amazing episodes, kind of like talking about those and like talking about my hopes and dreams and different things that 2023 is hopefully going to bring. I haven't experienced 2023. I'm not a time traveler. I cannot predict the future, sadly. I wish I could, because that'd be pretty cool. Like, I feel like that'd be so cool to time travel because, I don't know, I just have so many questions of, like, what will I do in 10 years? Like, I kind of want to see, like, where I'm at, like, throughout life and, like, what happens. And I would also like to see, like, different roads. Like, if I, like, would have done this instead of this, like, where would I be today? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I always question those things. And I don't know if that's a good thing to question or not, but I always do. And yeah, I don't know. I always think it's kind of neat to, I guess, question and pick apart and about the future and the current present that you're living in. But I do think it comes to a point where you cannot do that all the time because it's the present. It's a gift. And if you don't celebrate it and if you don't live in it, then I feel like you're going to be very sad and you're going to end up with regrets. I don't know. So thanks for listening to this episode of the Doll Mom Podcast. If you made it to the end, thank you so much. I feel like I kind of rambled throughout the whole thing. Hopefully when I'm editing this, it sounds better and it like ends up better, because I feel like right now as I'm recording, I'm like, oh gosh. Okay, hopefully this is okay. I also want to thank you so much for listening. If you have listened to the past episodes of the Doll Mom Podcast this year, or if you listened to it past episodes multiple times, just once, just for a few seconds, I want to thank you so much for listening to it and for supporting something that I am still very passionate about and I really love and enjoy. And yeah, I just want to thank you so much for supporting me and kind of supporting my dream of like making a cute little podcast. So once again, thank you so much for listening, everyone. My name is Amal. You can find me at Dollies and Rainbows on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. I'm pretty much everywhere. That's the most 3 that I'm mostly active on. You can find, I also, besides doing a podcast, I have a American Girl History website, which I'm very passionate about as well. It is called American Girl History. You can find it on Instagram at American Girl _history. And then you can also check out my podcast, which is what you're currently listening to and what you currently have listened to. It's called the Doll Mom Podcast. We're on Instagram and TikTok at Doll Mom Podcast. Yeah, I hope everyone has a great rest of 2022. If you're listening in 2023, I hope your day's going good. Well, I hope your day's going good regardless of whatever time you're listening. But yeah, have a great rest of 2022. Have a great 2023. I'll see you next year, everyone. Bye.